All right, thank you everybody for participating today on our tips and tricks webinar series that we've been doing on Friday. Today we are going to go over the GTL-1003. My name is Andy Huntley. I'm the National Sales Manager for the Scanning Technology, specializing in the GTL-1000. I've got over 10 years of experience doing some kind of positioning layout type of work. The last company I worked for, I was the head of research head of scanning technology, and also led the research and development for the technology in the concrete construction industry. Pretty much meaning I got to play around with any type of positioning equipment that you would typically see on a active job site, be it 2D, 3D machine control, GPS, total stations, robots, scanners, and also drones. And if you don't believe me, yes, that is me with the old school Hyper-Vs. So like I said, today we're going to talk about the GTL-1003. And I do say the 1003 just because I want people to know that this is a 3-second robotic total station. What we're going to cover today is basically what's inside the box. So when you get a GTL, what should you expect to get out of it in the box already? The next thing is configurations that I typically use. You don't really have to use some of the settings I do. It's just user preference. Other things are going to be how to get the most out of the unit. And then at the end of the day, what do I recommend you guys do? So first thing, what comes in the box? So you get a brand new cardboard box, you open it up, you pull out the yellow case, and you're going to see right away the GTL-1003. On top of that, you're going to find 3 of the DBC70 batteries, and then 1 of the chargers. As a side note, as time goes on, we will be switching those out to the newer style batteries. Just right now, they're still set with the 70s and not the 71s, I believe. The other thing you're going to get is a lovely SD card, a 16 gig, which can hold a lot of files for you. And then in that same packet that you find the SD card, you'll also find a thumb drive that contains the manual for the GTL and a manual for the magnet field software, plus some software for an accuracy checker. So if you want to check how your scans are doing and all of that. Inside that same packet that you see, you'll find the SD card and all of that. You'll also find a sheet of paper folded up that has a serial number for the onboard magnet field software. So when you purchase a GTL, you automatically get the magnet field on board. The other thing you'll notice is a TS Shield authorization code. And then, like I said, the normal paperwork that you'll see in any of our total station kits, plus a sticker for the laser itself, because of the GT portion has a laser pointer. So now we've unboxed it, we got everything out of it. We need to set up our magnet field layout software where we can talk to this instrument and actually use it. So the first thing we need to do is go into jobs, and then you'll see a little globe with the gear and its settings. So we need to click on settings. Another screen will appear, and this is all the settings for your magnet field layout software. In here, we'll go to equipment. Equipment is where we're going to be able to go in, and if I use just a GT robot or a GTV, an IX, or any of the GM total stations lines, this is where I would add them in. For this one, we're going to do the GTL. So we'll go in and hit edit. At this point, I typically will call mine like a GTL-1000, and it's always going to have to be a robotic total station. You have to have it as a robotic total station because if you don't, you will not find the actual driver for that instrument. So once we get that done, we go to the next screen. It'll show what's the manufacturer. Well, it's Topcon. The model, the GTL-1000. I am going to stress, make sure you put it as a GTL-1000 and not a GT. You can still run the instrument as a GT configuration, but you do not get any of the scan modules turned on your home screen when you do it that way. So that's one big tip there. The next one, foresight height and backside height. If you're using the same rod every time, the carbon fiber prism pole that we normally send out with these units, and you know, hey, I'm always going to run at 5.5 foot, then just set them up ahead of time so you don't have to worry about changing those all the time. But the other thing I do recommend is your HI, your height of instrument. I leave mine at 0, so I know that I need to change that. So that's kind of like I said, these are settings I use for myself, but do however you guys feel comfortable for yourself. The next thing, instrument connection, Bluetooth. Unless you want to stand behind the gun with the coil cord and hardwire it directly to your FC6000, always go with the Bluetooth setting. Next one, the search. With the search routine, I typically leave it at the manufacturer one, at the 15 degrees horizontal, 15 vertical. That's just the search box. I'll leave it at that. If you want a wider search box, you definitely can do that. But just know it's going to take a little more time to search. So if you can get it closer to you, just keep it within the 15. It's pretty well good. Turning speed. I like to max mine out because I like to show, hey, this thing can really spin. I have heard people say that when they max it out, it sometimes will, it jerks a little bit and it will start to loosen up the screw on the bottom of the tripod. So if you're noticing that, just bump that setting down just a little bit and you'll be fine. But like I said, I like to leave mine at higher speeds because when it's searching and it's turning, I want it to go and use those ultrasonics as best as possible. Tracking measurements, I leave mine at standard. It's worked. Might change it. Next one, survey settings. These are just your basic prism settings. If you know you're going to always use a prism as your setups, so your backside and your foresight are always going to be a prism, you can set it up here. If you want to change it where you want to run reflectorless or use the sheets, you can easily change that in here and set those up as your normal workflow. I recommend just keeping it with the prism. It comes with the kit. You might as well use it. Now, EDM tracking your measurements, I always go with tracking so that it's always following the prism. And I do an average of 1, so it's quicker. You can change these. Like I said, these are all settings that you can easily go in and adjust and custom tailor it to your likings. Now going into layout. If you notice, mine is at almost 2 inches of accuracy. If I needed to do a project where I needed to lay out a bunch of anchor bolts, I would take my accuracy and drop it down to maybe 1/2 inch, just so that it doesn't allow me to stake any points that are beyond 1/2 inch in accuracy. So these are things that when you set the instrument up, go in, change them, make it where your company or whoever you're talking to, everything works and it's more of their best practice. The next big thing is layout settings. The turn to design point. I turn that off because when I'm staking a project, I don't want it to automatically, once I stake that point, just to shoot off and start going to my next point. I want it to walk me to that next point. So I leave it at none, and I basically make it tell me where to go. But if I was going to use the laser pointer functionality of the bottom part of the gun, then I might say, go ahead and switch this over to go ahead and turn and have that laser pointer on. So that as soon as I'm done with that one point, it will automatically jump over to the next, and I know just go find that laser pointer. And then the guide, you can set yours up to be the laser pointer. I leave mine off just to save battery power. So that was the settings. Now let's talk about how can we get the most out of this unit. There are several different ways and several different accessories you can use to get more bang for your buck. Here are three of things that I highly recommend, just because they're faster. Some of them are things that people don't really think about, and others are, hey, that makes sense to do. The first one is going to be using the onboard magnet software. If I'm only going into a building to scan, if I have a bunch of columns and I have points on those columns, then I don't need to go in and set the unit up on a known point and backside a second known point. I can set this unit up anywhere, shoot 2 known points in resection or however else I want into that project. Like I said, it's less stuff I have to carry up. If I use the onboard system and I go that route, it's only a tripod and a data collector. The next one is allowing the unit to auto find the retro reflector sheet targets. And I've got a video, the guys over in Europe did a phenomenal job showing it, and I want to show you guys this video. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then the last is the using GPS as our hybrid positioning quick lock. So going in, the reason I recommend the onboard system, like I said, is it's less equipment you have to take up onto a high-rise deck. I can load our magnet software or our MJFs directly onto the instrument and start scanning if I need to. And the reason I bring that up is that, like I said, it's less equipment you have to take onto a high-rise deck. Many of these job sites you go to, and it's walking around the deck is kind of hard to do already. And when you're carrying a big yellow box, plus a tripod, a bipod, a prism pole, and a prism, and a data collector, that's a lot of stuff. Where if I can go in, put the box use the backpack clips on it, easily do it, walk around a job site just carrying a tripod. So you're safer walking on a job site that way versus having both your hands full. Here's a quick little video that basically shows what I'm talking about. As you see, he's just dialing in the instrument, he's resectioning in, and he's starting a scan with the onboard system. At the end of it, you still get the same image that you would on a data collector right there on the screen. All your data, your point clouds are being stored right on the SD card, just like you would with the data collector. And like I said, magnet field already comes with these instruments, so why not use it? Next one, allowing the GTL to find center on the reflective sheet targets. A lot of people doesn't really know that this feature is achievable, but it's a great feature. I'm going to go ahead and let Levi talk about it.
So I thought it was common knowledge that the GT, the GTL, and the MS all auto-collimate onto retro targets, but some of you didn't know. So I'm just going to show you real quick. I've got a setup here with my GTL. As you can see, I am well off my target. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I've got the right EDM settings. So sheet, then hit auto-collimate. stand back, watch the ultrasonic motors do their magic, switch my red laser back on. Let's go and have a look. Check that out. Easy peasy.
All right, so just like that, couple of buttons, quick search, and it locks right onto the center of our Sokia sheet. These are very helpful. It's a very helpful thing when you're in like a downtown busy area. We don't have areas to set a tripod and a fixed backside. So a lot of times we can put these prism reflective sheets up on a wall of an adjacent building, put them about 10 feet up so the general public can't really destroy them normally. And if I got to keep coming back to the site, well, I have my known targets already there. And you just go in, allow the instrument to search, lock onto the center, and you're good to go. Also on projects where I know, hey, like on a high rise, I'm going to have to keep coming back to this project. Well, I can put these targets up all over the place and just start scanning if I need to. So these are some great accessory tools that we can use with the GTL, or in this case, any of the IX and the GTs and the GTVs. Let them auto lock to the center of these targets. Next, and last for the 3 accessories that I recommend, is the use of a GPS unit. One of the things that a lot of people notice is we do not have an RC5. Well, without the RC5, we can't do that quick search come to us. So that's why I would recommend using a GPS antenna like the VR, or if you have an SR on the network or an HR, easily sit there and do the hybrid quick lock. The other benefit is if I'm doing an as-built or a topo, and I know that I do not have line of sight to my instrument, but I just need that 1 or 2 points, I can easily just switch over and collect those points with the GPS head itself. So having that mixed functionality is really nice. The other really cool thing is with our our tilt technology, I can turn that dial or that level bubble up on the screen. So while I'm staking, I don't have to chase the bubble on the side of the pole and twist my head. I can just use it on the screen as I'm laying out my points with the instrument. So you kind of get the great benefits of tilt technology. It just doesn't correct the point from the robot currently, but it does help us level up our pole a lot quicker. And any of the Topcon GPS units will work. I'm not 100% sure on the legacy units, and the same for the Sokia. The 2 in production right now, the GCX3s and the GRX3s, also will work with it. It's just hybrid positioning. So lastly, what do we do at the end of the day? So we have all of this data. What should I do at the end of the day? I highly recommend, since all of our magnet field software, or magnet field layout software, if you do the solution package, you get 1 year subscription to Enterprise. Upload your data, your MJF files right up to Enterprise. Takes no time. The next thing, so I've got my MJF up. What about my point cloud? Well, what I recommend is investing in a cheap USB or SD card reader to USB dongle, and use the power of that FC 5000 or 6000 to transfer your data back to the office. So if you have a VPN connection to your servers, easily take your data and dump it back to the office. And really, this isn't just for like the end of the day, but it's also for like the end of the project. So instead of having to drive all the way across town or across the counties or things like that, just transfer the data digitally so that the CAD guys in the office can start using it and start speeding up the projects. Well, if you're speeding up the projects, project managers get happy because now we're speeding up, we finish projects early, and now we can make a little bit of extra money on it. So those are some of the big things I would recommend. All right, so that's basically our PowerPoint presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. This is Ryan from Topcon out in Chicago. I was just curious how the GPS, I mean, because I deal in vertical construction, how does the GPS, attachment work inside of a building? That's what I'm kind of curious about, in lieu of an RC5.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
GPS,
that's the only issue, yeah.
So GPS, you do have to have a decent view of the sky. You can get up under like some tree canopies, things like that, and get corrections, but you have to be outside. Now, you could use the tilt functionality out of like the VRs or things like that. But on a high-rise deck, if you're not talking to the concrete contractor, or well, let's look at the MEP guys that are having to go in and put sleeves in. They're typically on the high-rise deck and they're on the top floor that's open to the sky. So you could use GPS in that case, but if you're underneath on the lower floors, then no, you couldn't. Great question.
Thanks, Andy.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question for the settings you used.
Okay.
So you kind of specified that those were the settings that you liked and recommended. How close were those to the defaults if you were to just click through it, not having seen this?
So most of them are still the default settings. The one big setting I typically do change is that speed. Default, most of the time puts it low. I always ramp it up.
Okay, cool.
What is the range on the scanner for doing an as-built?
So the scanner head has a range of 70 meters. So about 200 feet, give or take. And that's range. That's not diameter. Diameter's a little over 400. But that is 70 meters for horizontal, or not horizontal, but vertical structures. Horizontally, the lower your scanner is set, the less horizontal points you're going to capture. Does that make sense, Lance?
Yep. I was just trying to figure out how, if we're trying to use it in, excavating and being able to shoot topo or anything like that, how far away we can get.
A lot of times you're on a hill, or if you're excavating in, like I said, a hill or a building base or a basement for a house, things like that, you can get some good range. A lot of times with scanners, you're going to want to also overlap your points clouds to start filling in gaps. So range kind of goes away at that point because you just move down a couple of hundred, or about 100 feet, and do a scan again. And so you start filling in and you just daisy chain it all the way around.
Yeah, hi Andy, it's Adam from the UK. Yeah, just in terms of the GTL, I think typically over here we're working about 50-meter bubbles for the overlaps. So it's never been designed as a long-range scanner, so just keep that in mind. It's high speed, short range, high accuracy. But yeah, if it's long range, then we have other devices to do that, like a GLS.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. Well, we can kind of kept that one short and sweet and to the point. So thanks everybody for attending. These videos, I do put them on YouTube on our kind of Topcon vertical page. I will send those out probably first thing next week. So you should be able to view them anytime you want. And if you want to go back and take a refresher on the Edgewise or Verity or Collage software, those are up there as well. All right. With that being done, thank you for your time. And if you want more info, please reach out to your Topcon representative. We'd be more than glad to assist you. Thank you so much, everybody.